can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Coast to Coast. I am your host, Pags. I have Bo on the other side, Mclovin, to come at some point during the show. What's up, Bo?
Hey, how's it going, man? It's before the show, I couldn't remember Schefter's name, so I feel like I'm very well prepped for where we're headed today.
Well, you know what? Since we're talking about Schefter right away, I'm wondering if he got another one wrong, because I heard at some point that Callahan was going to be the coach of the Titans. And of course, that wasn't even the biggest news. That obviously came off somewhere around like 3:30, 4 o'clock. But I can't find anything about it right now. Says that, so maybe the Titans don't have a coach just yet. But
It wouldn't be unlike Schefter to miss one.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, he's missed a few so far. So I wonder if he's getting sent some bad info.
It does show on the Tennessee Titans website. Titans hire Brian Callahan.
There we go. All right.
TennesseeTitans.com.
Then at least he got it, because I don't see anything in the news from Score, the Score app, which is where I get all my news. And Score app, if you would like to sponsor us, we are still accepting all sponsorships. So definitely, get a hold of us. Absolutely. But what I do see currently is the Chargers have hired Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, and I think that's going to really start to make the other pieces fall in line around the league. I think everybody was kind of holding out hope to maybe sneak in and steal that Harbaugh sweepstakes, despite the fact that the Chargers were obviously the inside track there. But I think that I think now you're going to see coaches really start to fall in, especially after this weekend, because the other two top guys, potentially may be done.
Well, I mean, obviously, I did hear a lot about. Like I said, Callahan was chosen. Obviously, he's now got a home, and the Titans' job is gone. Chargers' job is gone. That leaves, obviously, I think 6 left so far. There have been some movement around the league. Obviously, one of the biggest ones is Nick Fangio saying, nope, I don't want to be part of the Dolphins organization anymore. And says, you know what? I want to go back home closer to my family. And what's closer to my family than Philadelphia?
Yep.
And so he looks like is set to sign a deal to be the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles.
So how do you feel about that? Because, I mean, you're essentially getting the guy that created the defense that you were already running.
Well, then at least you might as well go right to the source. So that's the problem I have with the defense is this another guy who also doesn't know how to spell the word blitz? Because that's been the one challenge that I've had with this is that if you're not getting the push from your front four, then you're not getting in there enough, and ultimately you're going to start to fall apart. Now, the one thing I will say about Fangio is he also understands the importance of linebackers.
True.
Where I feel that up to this point, the linebackers have been more a afterthought. And I feel like it has nothing to do with the defensive coordinator. I think it has to do with the philosophy of spending money on the Eagles organization. Now, I feel that
There's a lack of talent in that position group.
lack of talent and a lack of money spent. So that's part of the issue is that they spend the money on the cornerbacks and the front line, and they leave the middle of that area. They pick up pieces, and the pieces, whether they fit or whether they don't, you're stuck with. So I think at one point we had 9 different starters at the linebacker position in Philadelphia, and all of them stunk. You know,
Well, at least they were consistent.
so and then after, especially after going to the Super Bowl and having a couple of decent linebackers and saying, you know what, we don't need either one of you. You guys are want to ask for way too much money. We're going to go. So my thought process on that is that if you're going to go that route, you have to invest higher draft picks on those areas. You have to get second round picks, and you have to be on it every 3 years. You got to sign them to the max deal, rookie deal, and if you're not going to pay them again, you got to make sure that you're on it for the next round. So you have to invest those high draft picks, which they don't like to do. And I understand that because I appreciate the fact that hey, the first 2 rounds of the draft should go to big guys, offensive and defensive linemen, or corner or quarter. Those are the only 4 positions that really, and really, I'm saying there's more positions there, but offensive lineman, defensive lineman, corner or quarter. That's it. Those are the 4 spots that you need to resolve in the first round because big guys or highly skilled guys only come around so often.
No, for sure. And I mean, those 4 positions really determine a game. Trenches are huge, and then obviously huge skilled impact players. Like that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Right. So other than that, like I'm not a fan. You don't go safety. You don't go tight ends. You don't do any of that stuff. I mean, unless the tight end is like a super deluxe tight end, which
Sure.
there hasn't been many. You know what I mean? There isn't a number of tight ends from Iowa are all going to be pretty good. You could just go ahead and get them in the 3rd or the 4th round and be okay. You know what
Well,
I mean?
and that's kind of the deal with running backs too at this point. Like you can get one late second round or later, and they're going to be solid running backs.
Or you know what? There's enough running backs out there that you could sign like 15 and have them all compete in training camp.
True.
You know, that haven't even got drafted because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, you know. So ultimately, I feel like that's part of it. You know, and truth of the matter is that if you're a running back and you can't catch the ball, you might as well go find another job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the league today, not useful. Yeah.
So, yeah, Chris, we knew about Hoskins yesterday. We announced that yesterday. So with Hoskins to the Brewers, but I appreciate it. So I mean, ultimately, Fangio coming to the Eagles isn't, you know, like I said, I was a touch surprised that he was going to become available. It makes me wonder. It's like, oh, okay. He said because people are said, oh, he got let go. No, he didn't get let go. They weren't trying to let him go. You know what I mean? So I think this had to do with, hey, I don't, I want to get, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I think that's really what it came down to. It's like if I'm going to continue coaching, I want to finish out my years close to home.
Yeah, and
So
that's fair. That's fair. And I mean, you know, for you guys, because it isn't necessarily changing the philosophy altogether. I mean, it's basically just you're going from the photocopy to the original, right? So some things should get cleaned up a little bit, a little easier to read. And also the guy that created the philosophy. So, maybe there's some wrinkles that the guys that are growing from it don't necessarily have. So I think it was a decent pickup. Obviously, just about anybody would have been better than Patricia. So, I mean, hey, but
well,
but but it's not like their defense was amazing, down in Miami, right? Like it'll be better than what you guys were doing, but it's not like it's going to transform into an elite unit because he's there.
Well, the one thing that I hope that will occur in the next year is Davis. I mean, I feel like Davis had a little bit of a sophomore slump, you know, and he's too big of a guy to not be more disruptive.
Sure.
Now, I also know that, interior linemen sometimes take a little bit longer to progress to that point. And, Fletcher Cox was kind of very similar. I mean, he was able to, he wasn't as dominant in the first year or two that he was around. It took him 3, 4 years to get his feet under him, so to speak. Uh, I'm hoping that that's kind of what occurs here with Davis and that he's able to kind of pick it up. Obviously, Carter, much different. I mean, he's probably close in line for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And had a great season. And ultimately, I feel like he will get better as they move forward too. So I'm hoping that that's the case. That all right, we're in year number 2 of this now. It's time to go win ourselves a championship like we did down in Georgia. You know what I mean? Because they were together for 2 years, and it wasn't until that third year that they got a championship, and then the fourth year they got a championship, and of
Well,
course they
I
didn't
do
get one.
think that I do think you're going to see some decent growth as far as the guys on the defense, right? Because you got a lot of young guys there, and the NFL isn't generally the let me step out of college and just kill it in the NFL, right? There's 1 or 2 of those a year, but for the most part, guys kind of have to evolve. A lot of times they say you got to catch up to the speed, right? So I mean, it's one of the things I always hate when people are like, oh, you came out of college, you didn't do anything immediately. It's just like, well, yeah, because in college, even when you play the best teams, you're facing what 4 or 5 at best NFL guys on a roster generally, right? And now the 53rd man on this roster was, an All-American somewhere. So it's a little bit different, going from college to pro. So I always give a little bit more latitude, especially for rookies in big skill positions where you're going against guys that are vets, that are fast. It's like, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a learning curve there.
There you go. And yes, it just happened. I got it as of 6 minutes ago. Yes, the Carolina Panthers have a new coach. Offensive coordinator Dave Canales is their new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And coming from a team who should know him pretty well.
True. Yeah.
So
well, hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I'm surprised that well, you know what? I think that maybe because he knows that offense well enough, and I wonder what type of relationship he has with the new GM over there. That probably plays a big part here, saying, "Hey, listen, you're going to come in here. We have certain level of expectation for next year, and that will be tempered so that there isn't any problem here with you being able to go forward the following year.
Yeah.
We're going to wait till you actually have a first round draft pick before we decide that you are not the coach of this team."
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that kind of worked out well for them. But going back to Harbaugh,
Okay.
how much of a surprise is it that he decided to leave Michigan? Now, I understand some of the stuff that was going there and all this stuff, and I got to imagine money is the bigger thing here. You know what I mean? Some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the details of his contract yet, but I mean, if he was going to get, 125 or 150 from Michigan, depending on which offer you were looking at, it has to be in the ballpark, right? But I think more than anything, this was dodging the NCAA potential sanction, suspension, I think it has a lot to do with that because he goes to Michigan, he wins the ring, right? Like he gets the natty, and I mean that's what you set out to do. So now I could see the move because you have some unfinished business in the NFL. You got to a Super Bowl, but you didn't win. So, can you come back and finish the job? I mean, I would have a draw to do that.
Well, I hear you. I mean, I understand the draw, in terms of, hey, he was an NFL quarterback. He sniffed, what the, Lombardi, smells like, and of course lost,
To
so,
his brothers, so that's fun because then it, your brother gets to be like, hey, little buddy, yeah, you see this ring? You could have had one of those.
but that being said, I think that, I don't know. I don't know. I am not 100% certain because that the Chargers are now a Super Bowl contending team with him coaching.
I mean, I don't think that's the case, but I do think they can challenge for their division. And, it's a division that isn't as strong as it's been. The Broncos, that, again, I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, is, they're walking back their stance on Russ. So they might be bringing him back, which that seems like a contentious situation. So that won't be great. You're looking at the Raiders that, they still don't have enough pieces to be truly viable. And then you look at KC, which has a offense that's very beatable. And their defense is good, but the offense just isn't what Mahomes is used to having. So it is definitely a winnable division. And once you win a division, I mean, hey, you got to figure out 4 games. So anything's possible from there. But they can go from where they are now to contending for that division just with the coaching change because of how bad Staley was.
Well, no, and I can understand how bad Staley was, but that being said, I mean, you got, let's face it, if probably in all of the divisions of football, you may have the toughest group of coaches that you're going to be going up against. I mean, you've got uh, a likely Hall of Fame coach. I assume he's a Hall of Fame coach. I got to imagine he's going to go in. You have Sean Payton, who was also, a very highly respected coach. And
Probably.
then you have the Raiders. You have the Raiders coach who is
Scrappy.
yeah, he's one of those guys. I mean, he doesn't have the longevity of the other coaches to be able to say. But yeah, as of right now, the players love him. That they fought real hard and said, "Hey, listen, if you don't have him be our coach, we're going to start a coup again." You know what I mean? So maybe that's it's, if anything, he's going to be tested right out of the gate.
He is. And I mean, one of the things that I said before is he's going to have a good draft, right? He's going to be able to nail some of these 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders because he's seen them in real time. He's not relying on scouts, right? So even though their cap is kind of a mess with how expensive that defense is, he's not going to have to keep all of that. Like he's going to keep some key pieces. He's probably going to draft some of the guys that he's been watching for the last 3-4 years. So I think that he'll be able to mitigate that cap issue. The offense is good. They put up points, they put up yards. They just didn't have a defense that could do anything. So if he can fix that defense, and it doesn't have to be elite, it just has to be good, right? Like if you're somewhere between 12 and 15, somewhere around in there as a defense, you're going to win a lot of games with how explosive that offense can be.
Right. So, do you think they Khalil Mack is on that team, right? Yeah. Do you think that they trade him away? I got to imagine he's probably one of the higher priced guys.
So he's expensive. Bosa's expensive. But I don't think you have to. I think you can keep those 2 guys and then bring in some rookies to fill in, right? You don't necessarily have to lose all your talent on defense. I mean, I understand they're over the cap, but you can make you can trim some fat around the team to be able to keep those guys because rookies are cheap, especially in the third and fourth rounds.
Well, you're right. That's what I'm saying. And I'm gonna confirm the cap space that they have. Uh,
I do know they have a cap issue. I don't know what the number is exactly, but
it is right now, as it stands this second, is $45.8 million over the cap.
perfect. Yeah, so I
So
mean that's a huge number. There's no doubt, but yeah, I mean I guess it'd be interesting to see what players they have that are going to be free agents, because obviously some of those things can naturally work themselves out.
and I'll be honest, obviously two of their highest paid players on the defense is Khalil Mack at 17.5 and Joey Bosa at 15.
Yep.
And then I mean you got Keenan Allen at 18, you got Mike Williams at 17, and we haven't even gotten to the quarterback yet.
Yep.
So who this year I gotta imagine is pretty low on the list, but is going to
he's
have
gonna
a
get
big.
paid, yeah.
And the hard part about this is if they cut Khalil Mack right now, he has only a $15 million cap hit. Bosa's got a heavier cap hit at
Yep.
$22 million.
No, I don't. Again, I don't think you get rid of either of those guys. I mean, you need a couple of impact players, right? Because the point of going to LA is they're a team that doesn't need a ton to compete, right? Like it's not a Washington where you're rebuilding the whole thing, or the Panthers where you're gonna be rebuilding for a while. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of nice pieces that if you can mitigate this cap issue and bring in some rookies to fill in some holes that you have to create, you're a viable, playoff contention team. I'm not saying you're a solid playoff team, but you'd be in the mix. Like you'd be in the conversation.
Yeah, actually, and it's funny. Khalil Mack right now, as his cap hit is $38 million this year.
Woo.
Bosa's is 36, and Keenan Allen is 34.
Wow.
As I'm going down the list, Mike Williams is 32, and then there's a drop to Derwin James, which is 19.8, and then Justin Herbert, which is 19.3.
What, they just walked in the club doing this when they were paying guys? Like what?
I guess so. I mean, but
Wow.
to think about that is really crazy. At 38,517,500. That's how much Khalil Mack is right now. Because he's getting his roster bonus, his workout bonus, his prorated bonus, and then the base salary.
Oh, so this thing was kind of backloaded.
Yeah.
I got you. All right. Well, I mean,
They will save $23 million if they cut him.
ooh, man.
Same with Keenan Allen. If they cut Keenan Allen, they'll save $23 million.
So do you cut / trade Allen and go make a play for Mike Evans? Because he hasn't actually confirmed he's going back.
Right. Or how about, are you cutting Khalil Mack?
Man, that's a tough one. Because that's a difference maker. I mean, although that cap hit is enormous. Like that is a monstrous cap hit. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there will definitely be some accounting gymnastics to make this team work. But I don't think he's supposed to, necessarily be a champion this first year, right? Like he's got a mess to try and work through. But I still think they can be even with all that, I think they can still be in the conversation for, a wild card spot or something like that. Or again, even winning their division. Because again, I'm not impressed with what their division is. They have good coaching, but they don't necessarily have good teams.
Well, I got to imagine that the Chiefs are going to probably go after some receivers. So,
I hope so.
you know, we were talking about how Mike Evans, and I thought that he was, he may not want to play in the cold, but he's not going to be the only one. That's the only wide receiver. Let's find out. Let's find out who wide receiver free agents, and see who is the big name. 24. Let's go. Wide receiver free agents. T.A. Higgins.
Okay,
It's a big name.
that is.
Yeah.
That is.
He's ranked number one in that list. Michael Pittman Jr.
Okay.
also up there. Mike Evans,
Yep.
Marquise Brown, not as big of a name, but Calvin Ridley. I don't know. He may be gambling.
I mean, if you get to use him as a 2, that'd be fine.
Yep. Darnell Mooney,
Okay.
Gabriel Davis, OBJ.
Eh.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but
So see, here's OBJ. Like for me, if you have a 1 and a 2, and you get to use him for what he can do 2 or 3 times a game, like that's what he is, right? Like he can make us. He's there for a splash play. He is not going to be your workhorse. It just seems to be where he is in his career. Now, nice if you're just adding a piece, right? Like if you've got a couple of receivers and you're like, oh, let me just add OBJ. Awesome, right? Because he's going to make 1 or 2 of those impact plays during a game. But if you need a true number 1, it's probably not that dude.
right. Here are a couple of names that kind of interest me a touch. DJ Chark,
Okay.
who was with Carolina. Obviously, he didn't have a great season this year. And Michael Thomas, who is always hurt, but it was also for the Saints. Both of those are also free agents this year. Everybody else is kind of definitely on the bottom portion of this list. It's like that.
You could also make a play for D-Hop because it was a 1 year. Well, I mean, it was technically a 2-year deal, but it has an out after the 1 year. So depending on what the Titans want to do, you could probably get him pretty cheap. Like you could probably get him for a 4th or something.
Probably even less than that.
Maybe
You
a
could
5th,
probably get him, 5th, because they'd have to accept the option and then trade him.
Exactly. So, I mean, you could probably get a D-Hop. D-Hop is better than what he looked like with Tennessee.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll have to see about that. Hey, Brad, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. We're actually just kind of going on right now, kind of figuring out what the Chargers could possibly do to get themselves back into the mix of things with the fact that they've just hired a new coach and they are in a little bit of cap hell. So beyond that, the other story that I saw that was a little exciting, or a little interesting to me, not exciting. Saquon Barkley says, you know what? I really can see myself playing on another team since the Giants are going to be a little weird with me again this year.
I mean, right? They go through all of that last year, and then they're kicking rocks around the parking lot again. You're just like, what are you doing? Like, do you like this guy or not? Like,
the problem is that he wants a lot of money, and the rest of the world now is not paying running backs.
No,
but he is.
But I get it. From his end, he was their whole offense. Like,
right.
You went however Saquon went because they didn't have competent quarterback play at any level.
Or offensive line play.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I mean, the problem is that he's not Barry Sanders.
He is not.
And that's the difference.
And he gets injured. So, I mean, that's the biggest issue with Saquon is he can't stay healthy. If he could stay healthy, he'd be much more likely to get paid. But if you go into a season, you're like, okay, I got this stud of a running back. He's going to have a couple of games that are complete flops, and we're only going to get him for 3/4 of the season at best. It's like, okay, well, that's tough to pay for.
Agreed. But I feel that he's the only guy who was performing on that offense. And you're not going to fix every other hole. So If
No,
you're going to spend the money on the quarterback, like because I guess you got to go after a quarterback now, right?
well, you just paid Daniel Jones. I don't know what you. I mean, you can draft one, but I mean, you,
Yeah,
you
Daniel
own.
Jones may not play again for
No,
the.
I agree, but I mean, you own that contract. Like you're buried in that thing for now. So, I mean, yeah, you probably draft a guy, but do you keep Saquon or do you make a play for Derrick Henry? Because Derrick Henry is going to be cheaper. He can still run, free up some ability to get some offensive line help because they desperately need that. Um, if Saquon is thinking about going somewhere else and you obviously aren't trying to pay him, then get him out of the building and go get one of the other guys that's available or draft one. I mean, I don't know what the Giants' current draft situation is, but I mean, it can't be horrible.
Well, I mean, I got to imagine that they. I mean, they have what the fourth pick in the draft.
Yeah, I just mean like as far as total picks, I don't know what they're sitting at for this season, but because I don't know if they made trades that they gave away draft picks for. But
Yeah, and they're stuck with Daniel Jones again this year. They really are.
well, yeah, because he just signed that deal.
Well, it
Like
was only a 2-year deal, or it was a 4-year deal, but they had this. They had to eat it for 2 years because
exactly.
ultimately, his cap hit is 47 million.
Yeah.
Right now, 47,105,000. If they were to cut him, they will actually. Uh, it's 69 million in dead money.
Yeah, no,
So
they were buried in him. As soon as they signed that deal, I was like, man, I don't think he's that guy. I thought everything they were doing really had more to do with Saquon, and then Saquon goes down, and then Jones goes down, and that team unraveled essentially. But it, yeah, I mean, they're just kind of in a bad situation. Like they're gonna, unfortunately for them, they got to run back what it is they have. But if they're not going to keep Saquon, then I mean, they need to make a decision. Like, are you going to go with one of the other veterans that's around, or are you just going to, try and hit a home run in the draft?
well, I guess they're going to try to hit a home run, is what I would suggest or thought about. But as I'm looking at this, I mean, Thibodeau is still on the rookie contract. Some of the guys that, I mean, as I'm looking at this, like the only guy that they could cut without really losing money. I mean, they have Darius Slayton, who, if they cut, they save 6.2 million, but he only costs like right now he's I guess 7.9 million. So they would save. It would only be like 1.75 million in dead space, and you're only saving 6.2 million. Darren Waller is the next one
Yeah,
where you would save. He's worth 14 million this year. You're saving 6 million. You're still having 7 million in dead cap space.
yeah,
So everybody else you can't cut because you lose money. It creates too much dead cap.
hmm
You know, so interesting. It's interesting. The Giants they do have 30 million in cap space, but what does that really do? I mean, it's just 22 million in cap space is what they have right now.
yeah. So I mean, they can't really do much of anything. Like they get a run back that really what they have, and then hope whatever they get in the draft hits. Like that's pretty much what they get to do. So if you're a Giants fan, you can't be super excited about it.
No, I can't imagine that you're going to go any further, this year in comparison to, what you had, this past year. So let's see who else. Who else is an exciting team to go take a look at in terms of cap? How much cap space do the Seahawks have?
None, sadly. That was another defense that was expensive and not performing. Um, so as I recall, it's a pretty low number. It's like 20 million or something. Like it's
No, 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 no. They have negative 4.4 million in cap
they're over
space.
now. Okay,
Yes,
they
they
do
are
have an
over.
insane amount of free agents though. So they have 20 free agents. And then they also are going to, I would imagine they're going to cut Jamal Adams before the date required, just because, I mean, the dude can't stay healthy. When he is on the field, he's not really the impact player that he's been, mostly because he can't stay healthy. So it's tough to get in a rhythm if you're not on the field. And as I recall, going into this season, they do have an out on Jamal Adams' contract. So I think that's going to be one of those cap casualties. They say, hey, you know what, we're good, we're done.
Well, it's Jamal Adams he's slated to make $26.9 million this year.
Yeah.
And if they cut him, they will only save $6 million in cap space.
Sure.
It'll still cost them close to $21 million. That going on. The biggest guy, really. I mean, obviously the highest paid player on this team is Geno Smith, and if they cut him, they get $13.8 million savings.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough though, because you have a viable quarterback, right? He's not elite, but he gets the job done. Drew Lock, also a free agent. He played well enough that someone will want to pick him up as a backup. I have to imagine the Seahawks are going to draft a guy. So if you're going to draft a guy, do you get rid of Geno, who would be a great mentor type person, right? Because he was the recipient of that for a lot of his career. Or do you keep Drew Lock, which, doesn't necessarily give you a better chance to win? So, I mean, I feel like you probably keep Geno. He's still cheaper than most quarterbacks out there at this point. So you get good quarterback play. It's not the most expensive quarterback situation. You can draft a guy, have him learn underneath. But it's not like moving on from Drew Lock saves you a ton of money. Like he didn't have, a big signing or anything. So, but then there's guys that are going to be, they're going to cost a lot because they traded some stuff to go get Leonard Williams, who is a unrestricted free agent, right? And I mean, you don't give up a second rounder for him to let him walk at the end of the year. So they're going to have to figure out how to pay that guy. I can't
Leonard
imagine.
Williams?
Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
Defensive end.
Okay, actually, all right. So he's still listed as part of the team. Interestingly enough, he's down at the bottom, he has a zero base salary. You sure
Yes.
he's unrestricted?
Yes.
Because it doesn't have him it doesn't have him as a UFA. It's got him on the roster. It's interesting how this is all worded too, because they have every other unrestricted free agent and restricted free agent.
Yep.
On the list, because I was going to ask you names, and you could say whether they want to or not. He is still listed as a player on the roster.
That is interesting because he shouldn't be. Leonard Williams, his salary was zero because the team they traded with to get him covered his salary for the year. So they didn't have to pay him. He was a free addition, but you don't give up a second rounder. I think they gave up a second and fourth or something like that for him. So you don't give up that kind of draft capital for a guy you're going to let walk. But again, it's odd that it's not on your list. It was on the one I was looking at. But either way, you're going to have to pay this guy, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually pulling this up to see if they show him as a free agent here now on Pro Football Reference. And it doesn't say, actually. It doesn't say that he is an unrestricted free agent. I'd be willing to bet that they still have his rights.
Yeah, I forget which one I was looking at. I think I was looking at Sport Track.
Yeah, I'm doing all of my searching on Over the Cap.
I got you. Yeah, so if you look on sportrack.com, it has Leonard Williams as a unrestricted free agent.
Okay, then I guess that's.
So there's some competing information. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But if he is, that's going to be a huge price tag. I thought it was, because I thought it was just the end of his contract there. But maybe there was one more year. So that one, I guess I don't know for sure.
All right. So let me give you a couple of these names. You tell me keep or send packing.
Sure.
Bobby Wagner.
You have to keep him. He's the leading tackler on the team, and he's one of the leading tackling linebackers in the league for a decade straight.
Damian Lewis.
I mean, solid guard play. It's a question. It depends on what it is you can sign him for.
Got you. Noah Fant.
I would want to keep him. He is a great all-around tight end, and the coaching, the way that it stood, didn't use our tight ends very effectively. I would be interested to keep him in the room and see what the next coaching regime can do, unless, of course, it's Dan Quinn, and then you might as well let him go because you're still not going to use a tight end very well.
Got you. Okay. Jordan Brooks.
You got to keep him. He, he played well. It's one of the few linebackers outside of Bobby that was decent all season.
Okay. Devin Bush.
I liked what I saw out of him. That one would depend on what you could sign him for.
Jason Peters.
Man, I don't know.
I know. I would tell him to pack it. He's played in the league 4 years too long.
Yeah, I mean, so it depends. I guess it depends on what it is they have their sights on in the draft, because unfortunately that unit was so bad. You do need someone, not that he played great by any means, because he did not, but it was still better than what they had. And that's why that one's tough. But as a player overall, no, I would say you move on.
He's 42 years old. He's been in the league for 20 years. He should have been out of the league in after 16 years. Like I said, he's been in there 4 years too long. I would send him packing. Evan Brown.
Yeah. I mean, that one you probably let him go if you're keeping Lewis, right? And then maybe draft a guy or something. I mean, that one's tough because you could kind of go either way there.
And then, I mean, the only other name that I really see on this list that really makes any sense to me that you may want to keep, obviously, there's Artie Burns, who's been in the league for 8 years, and Drew Lock and Mario Edwards, who's been in the, for 9 years. But Drew Lock is the only other question that I'm going to ask you right now.
I think you let him go because I think you're drafting a quarterback, right? So if you're going to keep Geno, you let Lock go, you bring in your rookie, and you see how that goes. The one that's on this list that I would like them to keep that we hadn't mentioned was Michael Jackson, the corner. He played really well, and he did last year too when he was opposite of Tariq Woolen. And this season, he took over for Tariq a couple of times because Woolen just, for whatever reason, wasn't making tackles. And is he a household name around the country or a lead or anything like that? Not necessarily, but he's a good corner, and they've had to use him a bunch. So it would be nice to keep him in-house if they could. What's happening, Mclovin?
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
Just crying about the status of my team.
Well, and since he got here a little early today, let's ask him And by the way, just so that you know, Jackson is a restricted free agent, so they're going to be able to match whatever
Yes.
anybody signs him for. So when you say him, I kind of I didn't choose him specifically because he's not unrestricted. You might still be able to grab him,
Yes.
even if somebody wants to sign.
I just mean
Um,
that they really should bring him back.
got you. So now let's talk to another team that's already way over the cap with
Yeah.
$19.7 million over the cap. The
Hmm.
Dallas Cowgirls are going to have a little bit of a tough time this year.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I was just thinking about that today, or we were just talking about that today too, about how each one of our different teams was over the cap, and yeah, Dallas has got some decisions, especially with Prescott coming up for contract. How do you even address that, knowing that you're over the cap? I mean, because he's going to want 40+ million, whatever, and we all know he's not worth that, but he's gonna try to push for it. Yeah, I don't know what Jerry's going to do about that. That means somebody else is going to have to either take a pay cut or they're going to have to back in Dak's contract, which he's not going to do that.
So it's interesting because actually Dak Prescott, who's been in the league for now 8 years,
Right.
where has the time gone? Oh, you know what? It's gone so far that you haven't made it anywhere in the playoffs. But besides that, um,
Right. No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
right, so his cap number is 59.5. I'm just going to go. I'm going to round up a little bit. If you were to cut him, the dead money would be $61 million. So even though he's maybe up for a contract, he's still got 2 years on that contract
Yeah.
because that's what that tells me. If you cut him right now, you lose $2 million of and would create 61 or almost $62 million of dead cap.
Right. Right.
The other guy who's going to be a lot of dead cap space and next on the list is his cap hit is at 28.5 million, and that's Zach Martin, who is,
Yeah.
if you were to cut him, would cost you 42 million in dead cap, which is 13 million over, no savings. You wouldn't save any money. It would cost you 13 million to cut him.
Right. And and it's hard to even. I mean, the money aside, it's very hard to replace a guy like Zach Martin and get the production of Zach Martin. I mean, I would much rather, if I'm going to take a cap hit, I'd much rather take it on a guy like Tyrone Smith, who, quite honestly, is more on the injury list than not. So it's very hard. I mean, if I was to do anything, I would ask him if he would restructure his contract and maybe put somebody on the back end before. I mean, I'm not going to cut the guy. I'm going to look at other spots before I really cut him, because it's going to be very hard to replace him. It really is. I mean, what he does for that team, it's going to be incredibly hard. And I think that's even going to have a harder time with less skilled position guys or less experienced guys taking over that role.
And I tell you, when I look at, and I'm going on this through over the cap, so
Right.
I can't say the only one in the top few people that actually would save you any money would be Demarcus Lawrence, and it would
Yeah.
only save you $2.5 million if you cut him. Like his cap hit is $20 million. You would save 2.5 million of that if you cut him because it would only be $17.8 million of dead money.
Right, but there's
So
still 17 or 16 and over 16 million. So what does that really do for you? I mean, it didn't do a damn thing. It's like a small little dent.
correct, but like everybody on the top, like if you cut CD Lamb, who you can't really cut, he's got the rest of he's got $18 million that he's
Right.
guaranteed this year. And if you cut him, you don't save anything. It
Right.
becomes all dead money. Yep. Trevon Diggs, if you cut him, you lose $12 million because it's all guaranteed. Uh,
Yeah.
Gallup, you would save $800,000.
That's how we're doing.
So, so you're not again. That's not even a dent. That's almost like the tip on a dinner check for those guys.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then like obviously like as I'm going down the list, it's like everybody's just got guaranteed salaries. The Van Der Esch, if you cut him, you would have a $2.2 million cap hit, but you'd save 2.1. Brian Anger, if you cut him, you'd have an 800,000. Yeah, this guy's going to get cut. Brian Anger ain't going to be on your team anymore because he's going to get only an 800,000 dead money cap hit, and you save $3 million.
Yeah.
36 years old. He's gone. He's gone.
Right.
No more of that.
Now that and I think that's a legitimate cut. And I mean, I hate to say it, but punters, we can find another damn punter. I mean,
right.
Right?
Cooper Rush probably going to go.
Yeah.
It can only be a cap hit for $625,000, and you would save $2.2 million.
That's $5 million right there.
Besides, you already have a punter. You don't have to worry too much. Dak's going to go right back to throwing picks next year.
I just don't know what to do with my hands. But no, seriously, and touche though, Bo. I appreciate your quick comeback. But no, so who's your backup quarterback? Trey Lance. Okay, Jesus, and I still don't know what this guy's going to bring to the table.
Well, and then on top of that, here's ones that are around $1 million or a little bit over. Osa Agadawa.
I know who you're talking about. I can never say his name right either.
Chancey Golston and Nashon Wright, all of which, every single one of those are 26-year-olds. So I don't know if they were great or not great. I don't really hear their names a lot. But
they haven't had any playing time. They're like sitting behind the depth chart.
Yeah, so they're 1.3 million dollars you'd save.
3.9.
Yeah, so
on to the 5 million. So now you're up to 9 million roughly, between all the guys you just mentioned, between Anger, Cooper Rush, and those three guys. You're looking at 9 million in savings.
Right, and now you got Josh Ball. He's another $1 million if you cut him. That's now you're at 10 million.
The problem with cutting people is you still have to put someone in that position. So it's not like true savings. Yeah,
because you're basically what he's doing is what Pax is talking about is going in the second, third, fourth, and fifth slots in all these positions and cutting all these middle guys or these laddering guys out to try to get the savings without really because the front end guys won't do you a damn bit of good.
No, for sure. But I mean, even still, you got to put someone on that roster. So even at a league minimum, what is that? Like $600K, $700K, something like that?
I guess we're going back to open tryouts to fill those back end spots. Just come on out and give it a shot.
$795,000. That's the league minimum.
Okay. So almost 8. So I mean, if you're saving $1 million and then you have to drop 8 to fill that roster spot, are you really saving any money?
You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you this. Does football have the luxury tax? I forget, like baseball does, or what is it? Where if you go over, you got to pay the tax.
It's a hard cap.
So you got to cut something, regardless. Something's got to go.
It is a hard cap. Yeah.
And then let's talk about your unrestricted free agents that we could mention on this list. Stephon Gilmore, I think you let him walk.
Yep.
I think you let him walk too. He's older. He's not. He wasn't as quote unquote. He's not a shutdown corner. So if you're not a shutdown corner, I think we can find somebody else and save the money because again, age is not is against him, right? So yeah, I think you let Stephon walk.
So let's go with the next one is Jerron Curse. I don't know.
I don't want to let go of Curse. He's such a part of that defense. Like I can let Gilmore go because Bland stepped up. Now when Trayvon Diggs comes back, I mean those two guys alone will be fine. So I can see letting Gilmore walk and it not affect it. You let Curse walk. I think he's plays the safety spot. That really does create because he brings a lot of intensity or the physical side of that secondary. Curse does.
Well, I mean, as funny as that you mentioned Blance because Blance is the second one on the list here.
Yeah, I'm not letting go of Bland. I hate to say it, I'd let go of Curse before I let go of Bland.
Okay, so you got Lance, and then you got Tony Pollard.
God. And there goes our whole running game right there. Like, really, who else you got? Deuce Vaughn, and you got Dwiddle or Dowdle or however you say that.
Dowdle's also on the list. Rico Dowdle
Well,
is also on the list.
let Dowdle go too, because he honestly didn't do a damn bit, honestly. Now we're down to Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, what you do is you get rid of Pollard and you go try and sign Henry.
Hell, I let go all three of them and let Deuce, I don't know if you can let go of Deuce. I think Deuce, like you said, is at 800, so it probably would be beneficial for him. But definitely, I think you're right. I think you let both of those go. Maybe bring in Henry and then ride with Deuce Vaughn and Henry.
Yeah, but how are you going to pay him?
That's right. How are we going to pay him?
I think
Bo, how are we going to pay him, Bo?
I think you can get him relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
Injury history, I think you can get him relatively cheap.
Exactly, because it's not like I think the top end of the running back is at 10 million, and I don't think Henry is anywhere near 10 million. Maybe get him for like 4 million to 6 million a year, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're paying $6 million to Zeke.
Yeah, well, I'm not paying crap. That's Jerry Jones's craziness. Because if it was me, I would have paid Zeke that damn. I would have paid him that bit. Even if I had the money to pay him, he wasn't worth it at the time. You can't tell me that you're paying Zeke $10 million and Jonathan Taylor is getting $11 million, and you think that Zeke is anywhere near what Jonathan Taylor's doing, and it's just not.
No.
Like, you can't even justify that number.
And actually, it's interesting. You get to prorate Dax, for one extra year after he's around. So obviously he's around. He's got a cap hit number. Actually, he doesn't even have it. So this is his last year. Either way, you're going to get cap hit for the rest of his contract after he's gone. So after Dak is gone, if he doesn't re-sign with you guys in 2025, his cap hit is $36 million. In 2026, it's still $11 million.
Ouch.
So
they're gonna. That was Dak, right?
That's Dak.
You're keeping Dak. Like they don't have another option that's going to be an upgrade from him. Like he's just good enough to not get fired, but not good enough to win it all. Is kind of how it feels. But you could also save some money on that running back position. Like, Kareem Hunt's going to be available again. Like,
that's true.
And he would be cheap, right? He was sitting for a large portion of the year before the Browns ended up having to bring him in. So, I mean, you could get him relatively cheap, save some money there.
It's almost like the Cowboys are going to have to live what I call hood rich.
Yeah.
Where you got a couple of really nice pieces, but not as good as, you got the nice car, you just don't have the nice house.
Well, no. It's still a 69, but all the fenders are rusted out, right? The wheels are nice. It's still shiny, but
the tires have holes in them.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, no, seriously. I mean, with the cap hit that they're in and what Pags is running down with the guaranteed players, and what we're going to have to, and the decisions they're going to have to make, it's going to be a horrible look. God, Pags, you really depressed me going into next year because that's going to be rough. No, seriously, there's a guy right now at the Cowboys office that's in charge of the cap money, and he's just doing this number.
Yeah, he's looking out the window of that skyscraper, be like, I think I could clear that Buick.
Yeah. No, seriously, that's what it feels like, though, with these guys.
Yeah.
And then it tells you, was Jerry Jones really a good GM giving out this kind of money to the wrong kind? Like they haven't been fiscally responsible with their money. They've been good drafting. I get Jerry that, but he hasn't been good managing the cash flow or the cap.
I think he thought they were closer than they were. I think it was the shove all the chips in the middle and try and get that ring, similar to what the Rams did, right? They just handed paychecks out. They're like, we're going to go get a ring now. And it's only dumb if it doesn't work. And unfortunately for Jerry, it didn't work.
Because he's got to be sitting back in his office, when Zeke got the big payday. Dak got the big payday. And then Amari Cooper, I think, was the third one of the trifecta. They got the big payday. And he's thinking like, man, did I really screw the pooch on that one? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
You know, and I would say this. So just to make you feel all a little bit better, the Eagles have $20 million in cap space available, and you know we don't have anywhere near as many unrestricted free agents that you want to bring back at no money. So
Right.
I don't know that any of those guys that you want to bring back will accept a $0 contract. I'm sure the Players Association would have a problem with that as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but actually, and I do kind of expect that there is going to be another cut as I look at our cut list of who would be a really big cut right now to save us a lot of money. Kevin Byard, who is a safety, but he's 31 years old. He would only be a $1.3 million cap hit, but we'd save $13 million in space.
Oh, he's definitely gone. If that's with that kind of savings, you got to imagine he's gone.
Right.
Because you can pick up somebody else, close to where his talent was at a lesser price and be good. You might be able to pick up somebody in the draft if even possibly.
Yeah, the other guys that I see that they're saving, like they sign a lot of guys that on these 1-year deals. So there's not really much, or they have 2-year deals, but that's it's still like $1 million contracts. Like they have a lot of $1 million contracts. Even Marcus Mariota is he's a $3 million hit right now. And that would be it. So they wouldn't save any money by cutting him, but it's $3 million. James Bradbury, that's going to be a big one because it's going to cut $10 million. It's going to cost them $10 million to cut him. So Fletcher Cox, same situation. If they cut him, he's listed as under contract for 2024. So I know that it said that he was a free agent, but he's actually not. He actually signed a 2-year deal.
What since you're looking at roster money, what's Slay getting? What's his hit?
His hit this year is his cap number is $11 million. However, his dead money, if they were to cut him, his dead money would cost him $24 million.
Oh, I didn't figure you'd cut him. I was curious what the savings would be. Obviously the injury that he got looked worse than it was. Sounds like he's going to, have a full recovery and everything. I was just curious if for whatever reason he couldn't go, what they would save, but it wouldn't be enough to, wouldn't be enough to replace him with the same talent level.
Right. So, and everybody else, like as I look at this, there's nobody that really stands out anymore other than Bayard, who really makes a difference. But and our restricted free agent or unrestricted free agent list isn't something that's so ridiculous for me. Like I could see every single one of these guys go, except maybe DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift probably played well enough that you could offer him a contract. But, everybody else, like as I think about Rick Lovato, like he'll probably come back. Just because he was the punters. He's the one that hikes the ball for the punters.
No, the long snapper, or no? That's it.
That's it. The long snap.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, at least I'm not the only one that can't remember stuff today.
Exactly. So listen,
oh man, so you missed it. I full on was blanking, couldn't remember Schefter's name. I'm just like that. The other insider, not Rappaport. I'm like, what is happening in my life?
Oh yeah. Well, my wife just turned 50. I said, "Welcome to the Forgetful Club." So.
Great man.
Yeah, you'll get that way once you get about 50. But you're a little bit earlier in the game, so you might want to start really having concerns. But the rest of us,
I was feeling left out.
Well, listen, while we're making jokes and everything about how old we are in comparison to Bo, we will be back. Yeah, we are at the
That's right.
top of the
Top of the
hour.
hour.
We have to do our station identification before we forget. So stay tuned, and we'll be back for the second hour of Coast to Coast. I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate. All right, I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this
Oh, I'm
team.
ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get an each.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And welcome back to the second hour of Coast to Coast. And we have a little bit of, I guess, a very small amount of breaking news. They're going to give an extension to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. What else are you going to do?
I mean, I like Trevor Lawrence for the Jaguars. I think he's he's young and up. I mean, he's showed a lot of promise. I mean, I don't know why where they go from there in terms of the other sides of the rebuild. And now that's a question, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not so bad. I mean,
how's their cap situation since we were talking cap earlier?
How is their cap situation for, let's see, the Jacksonville Jaguars? The Jaguars have $11 million in cap space for this year. So, and ultimately, this doesn't have it up to date, but Trevor Lawrence was in the last year of his contract, so, and that was kind of guaranteed. So either way, he would have to, he's only getting paid $11 million this year. So he was going to definitely get an extension coming in. They also talked about bringing back Josh Allen, that Allen will return. He was an unrestricted free agent. He is going to be coming back. So I fully expect that to actually occur. Everybody else, it's kind of, nobody knows anybody on the Jaguars because nobody cares. They play. I
get it, but they didn't do bad. I mean, look, that team is still really. I mean, they're competitive. I mean, you got 11 million in cap space. To me, that tells me, okay, let's see how we do in the draft. We got a little bit of money to tweak in free agency. I mean, that team could very well do some damage if you tweak in the right spots, I think.
Yeah, I think that he's got to do a little bit more. They got to get some more pass rushers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, their
I
defense
agree.
wasn't strong.
Absolutely.
But I mean, yeah, I mean they play, I and I guess a little bit more of a difficult division than they thought. Obviously everybody was the parity wasn't great, or for them. Like I said, they wound up having a winning record and not make the playoffs.
Right.
So right there with the Colts, who was on that same list, and then you wind up
Right.
having Houston win a playoff game. So realistically, you could, in theory, think about the fact that hey, everybody in that division was really could have been Houston. Any one of them could have won that
You're right.
playoff game.
And then you got to look at too. The Colts lost, their Anthony Richardson right there close to the middle of the season, so they really got him Connor Minshew and company. So I'm curious to see a fully healthy Richardson and what he can do with that Colts team come next year. So I think it's going to be a three-headed dogfight come next season, and I think I expect to see some good things out of that division next year. A lot of competitiveness.
Got ya.
Especially when you figure Richardson, even during the section he was playing, still missed a couple of games during that time also. So
yeah,
before he got knocked out for the year. I mean, we still saw Minshew even earlier in the season. So I mean,
right.
We really don't know how much he would have evolved through the season. So yeah, I mean, the Colts are going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the games that he was playing, Anthony was actually playing quite well. I mean, they were happy with what he was doing on the field up until the point where he got hurt. So, like you said, there's still a lot of development that's going to have to occur next season. But I fully expect that Colts team, to be competitive next season and continue to get better. Now, I'm curious to see what they do more so. They got Michael Pittman Jr., but if they can get a complimentary wideout with him to pair alongside of him can give Richardson a little bit more weapons to throw to. So that should be interesting.
Yeah. So here's a question for you, because the list came out today of the finalists for Coach of the Year. So
you know what? I'm just looking at that same thing.
Oh,
See,
there we go. So we got Dan Campbell, got John Harbaugh, D'Amico Ryans, Kyle Shanahan, and Kevin Stefanski. I don't know if Kyle should really be on there, but I mean, I feel like this is probably really between Campbell and D'Amico Ryans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what they've done with those franchises.
Absolutely. I think Stefanski is like a kind of a distant third, right? Like he's in that conversation because he was able to do some stuff without a quarterback, really.
True.
And that defense was amazing. So he's in the conversation, but he's kind of that like lower echelon of that conversation.
Absolutely.
I think Dan Campbell and D'Amico Ryans are a coin flip. Like either one of those.
The only reason, you know what? Here's the thing. And I know I see what you're saying about the coin flip because, Lions are still in it and they haven't been in it for so long, things like that. And I get that. I totally get all that. My thing with D'Amico, what I feel like he is a little bit above Campbell, is the fact that literally last year, laughingstock. This year, one playoff win. Dan Campbell comes into Detroit, and it takes him a little while. He doesn't get that first playoff win right up off the rip. And I think that just kind of shows me how effective D'Amico is with that team. Now, you could say, well, they had a couple of people there, but he still had to draft CJ, change the culture, give stability.
They had back-to-back first-round picks.
I mean, and again, it's not like that doesn't help, right? It's not like that doesn't help, right?
It's not like Dan Campbell was gifted that.
But you still have to draft well. You still have to draft right. Because sometimes even when them first-round picks, how many busts and flops, a.k.a. Ryan Leaf, and, that was the grandfather of the bust, but you know what I'm saying. So just because you get those top rounds, that even puts more pressure because you really got to be right.
Yes,
twice.
But that's not D'Amico. That is giving your GM of the year.
Well, I think that's a little bit. I would say that's more 50-50 between the GM and the coach, right? I hear what you're saying with the GM, and I get that. So I think it's more because you got to know that D'Amico has some say in that.
No doubt. And that's why I say this could be a coin flip. They're coming at it from two different areas. And if either one of them won, I would feel good about it. Because if Dan Campbell won, you're just like, yeah, like he built this incredible culture. It took some time for it to, and they're balling out, right? They have bought in. They've done everything he's told them they were going to be able to do. And then when you look at D'Amico, to your point, like he steps in and they crush it from the jump, right? So, I mean, they both are very eligible for this award, just attacking it from different sides. I think if there was a GM of the year, it's got to be the Texans GM. Talk about getting talent.
Oh, Casario. Yeah, and that was the thing. Everybody was so upset, with the Casario hiring. They felt like, oh, we're going to turn into the New England Patriots, this, that, and the other. But it wasn't. That wasn't the case.
They could only hope. They could only hope.
Right.
Not for nothing. I mean, you said that out loud. That's exactly what I think. I'm like, yeah, you can only hope to turn into the New England Patriots.
Well, you know what I'm saying, though. I mean, minus a Tom Brady. I'm just trying to say, like, I understand where you're coming from, Tupac. So I don't want to say too much because they do want to go down that road, right? They do want to go down that road, but not everybody gets a Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady. I mean, that really was a luck pick because you didn't know, right? Combine numbers, you didn't, you had, and it just happened to pan out that, and then of course there's so many complications with that because Bill make Tom. There's so much into that, right? I mean,
sure.
I don't know. That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. That might be a whole show of itself.
Well, yeah. So since we're going to talk about football games tomorrow, let's go on with the lists. Obviously, we just talked about the coach. Obviously, more lists came out. So. MVP, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, CMC, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy.
It's got to be Lamar, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's definitely Lamar. I think you could absolutely make a good case for CMC and what he does on multiple aspects. I think you can make a good case for Josh Allen, but yeah, what Lamar's done from last year to this year, and the biggest thing for me with Lamar was the fact that he was able to find more wideouts other than just Mark Andrews when Mark Andrews went down. It didn't derail him. He found other players. He elevated those players or got those, you know what I'm saying? And that was the biggest thing for me with Lamar. Is can he get to the second, third option and not always to the first option for him? And that was the biggest improvement.
And of course, everybody talks about, Lamar can't throw and all that. And, at the end of the day, he put up 4,500 yards. So
yeah, at the end of the day, right? But here's my thing. Why the hell is Brock, no offense, Brock Purdy. Hey, no offense. But really? You think Brock Purdy is just, and CJ's not in that conversation? And CJ's not in there?
Lamar Jackson only threw 3,600 yards, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, was it only 30?
He ran for 821.
Oh, okay. So
that's
combined.
Just
how is CJ not in that conversation?
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, so combined. My bad. But even still, it and what he had 30 touchdowns roughly,
24 throwing,
and then what
and
running?
Another 5 scores on the ground.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah.
So ultimately, all right. Is he the MVP of your team? Probably. I can imagine that. So, but now this is where I get a question mark. The offensive player of the year. Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, CMC, Lamar Jackson, or Dak Prescott. If you win the MVP, are you not also the offensive player of the year? If you're
you have to be.
So it's funny, typically not though. Usually they give that to someone else because they basically give the MVP to a quarterback. Like it's basically a quarterback award. Let's be honest. Like it almost doesn't matter how good you are playing anywhere else. Really the only non-quarterbacks that win it is running backs because if you're a receiver, how did you get all those yards? You're a quarterback, and he probably also threw to other people. So receivers have a really hard time ever even truly getting consideration for MVP because your quarterback has to get you the ball. Like your position is so dependent on someone else. Whereas running back, where they have won it in the past, is because they put up crazy yards and were not only their team's MVP, but they've just put up, crazy stats, right? So do I think that Tyreek Hill wins an MVP? Probably not. Does he have a real shot at winning Offensive Player of the Year? Absolutely.
I don't know. I think if the MVP is going to go to quarterback, which by the way, Bob, I'm not I'm totally on board with the Lamar thing. And if it is going to go to somebody else and not be Lamar, then I'm down with CMC being in there. I mean, how are we putting CMC in the MVP award, but yet if he's not getting the MVP award, how does he not get the offense award?
Well, so, and I'm with you. Like CMC has a legitimate case as a running back, right? Because again, they dictate their own yardage, right? Like you hand them the ball at the line of scrimmage, and you got to create from there. So that is solidly on you. You need blocking and stuff, obviously, but you create that play. It's not like a receiver where everything like you got to get the ball to you. So I could see CMC having a real shot at the MVP. I don't think he wins it just because the league is what it is. But I could see him winning Offensive Player of the Year, no doubt.
I mean, this guy's not only just running it; he's also a receiver out of the backfield too. So he's getting two different category stats, whereas Tyreek's only giving you one. I mean, Debo is the only other guy I know of that can get you the running and the receiving as well when he's not hurt. But he's been hurt so much. But I think I don't know how you put CMC in that conversation of the MVP. And if he doesn't get the MVP, then how does he not get the offensive play? To me, I understand what you're saying, Bo, and I guarantee that what you're saying is probably going to be the way it works. But it just shows the hypocrisy of it. It makes no sense.
Oh, there is no doubt. Like
you know what I mean?
I've always thought it was dumb that is a quarterback-driven award for the MVP because there's been plenty of times.
I think the Heisman, right? Heisman's a quarterback-driven for the most part award, right? There's been a few instances where maybe somebody else also slipped in, but most part.
Yeah, and if someone does win it that's not a quarterback, it's typically a running back, right? So it's a good thing that you devalue these guys because, they can be the MVP, but you want to give them $8 million for, the year.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Right. So moving on, just because this is an interesting one. Defensive Player of the Year. Deron Bland, Crosby, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, or TJ Watt?
I think if it was between TJ or Micah Parsons, I think I would give it to TJ because he's had more sacks than Micah Parsons. So I think you would have to give it to him. But then I look at Deron Bland, and he set the NFL record for pick sixes, and he had 9 interceptions. I mean, God, for me, I'm giving it to Bland only because he set an NFL record doing it on the defensive side. But yeah,
I'm taking TJ Watt because that offense was so ineffective that they won a bunch of games just based on some of the things that he did, right? Getting in and getting strip sacks. And I mean, they went however far TJ Watt and that defense could make it go. So, because that offense was horrendous. So I'd give it to TJ.
I could agree with that. 19 sacks is a big deal. Micah Parsons had 14, Myles Garrett had 14, and Max Crosby had 14 and a half. I understand the whole idea about Deron Bland. However, he did have those 5 pick sixes. He also got beat an awful lot.
Yep.
So he gave up a number of touchdowns too. I understand that goes with the way you play. Sometimes you're the bird, sometimes you're the statue. He got a lot of chance where he was flying high with being a bird, but he was also a statue a good amount of times. So Offensive Rookies of the Year. Jamar Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Nakua, Bijan Robinson, or C.J. Stroud?
If you don't say C.J. Stroud out of y'all's mouths, we're going to have a fight.
Well, almost.
You know what I'm saying, right? Come on.
Almost.
No, yeah.
I think it's a two-person race here. C.J. Stroud or Nakua.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, no.
We're not having that conversation. Are we going to have this conversation?
You are definitely having this conversation. You have to.
Man, I need a refill.
Puka Nacua set rookie
records and everything for rookies.
Literally.
Team records.
Oh, yeah. And so Stroud didn't develop people who weren't necessarily known about.
You could appreciate everything that C.J. Stroud did. And
You have to agree, he's a field general.
So
and he came out and did above and beyond what the field general would even do in his rookie season. I mean, come on. I'm a wide receiver. I'm paid to catch a ball. Yeah, he's fast. He catch a ball. And you think that is more? Come on, guys. The level of responsibility for what the quarterback does for his team versus what a receiver does for his team.
For Nakua, a lot of those were yards. A lot of those were yards after catch. You're not exactly seeing Purdy straight.
Hey, that's like saying Nakua is a catcher and CJ Stroud is a pitcher. And you say, well, what's more important, the catcher or the pitcher?
I have to let him talk. I got to let him talk a little bit.
No, I mean, Puka had a lot of yards after catch, right? Because Brock Purdy isn't exactly bombing the ball down the field. Like, a lot of that was created by Puka Nacua. He set a lot of records. I think what actually hurts CJ Stroud is him getting hurt, right? Like, it's what took him out of the MVP race.
I mean, I'm having a hard time. Look, I'm biting my tongue on a lot of this. I don't understand. People didn't even know who the hell Tank Dell was. And everybody and their mothers out there trying to draft the hell out of Tank Dell in fantasy football because why? C.J. Stroud made him. Tank Dell goes down. Then they go to Noah Brown. Noah Brown goes down. Who the hell even thought about Nico Collins?
Well, no.
But then he made 3 different receivers look like wide receiver ones.
I'm not
saying. And you want to say, well, he got hurt. But then he comes back from getting hurt and takes them to the damn championship and then wins a championship game. Come on. Or a playoff game. Come on.
I'm not saying he doesn't win it. I'm saying it hurts him because he ended up getting hurt. And Puka Nacua did set all these records. I still think CJ Stroud wins. I'm just saying there's a real conversation.
I love Puka. And if he wants to come to the Texans I'm happy to certainly sign Puka. And I understand how, look, he had a lot of yards, but come on, man. You can't, look, you are talking about literally a position that will make or break a franchise versus a guy that can be replaced tomorrow.
I don't know that's
literally, no, you can replace that guy tomorrow. If you want to know, hear me out on this. Go to the Texans. Take any one of those 3 wideouts, and you can put them over there and beat Puka. Guarantee you. Noah Brown, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Yeah, you could do it. Because they're fast. And look, they had. They don't. Look, Puka has 1,400 yards because Cup tried to take a step back a little bit with injury.
Yeah.
So they had to throw him the ball. Atwell was kind of there, but they had to throw Puka. Puka was their wide receiver 1.
Yeah, for a little while.
The Texans didn't even have a true wide receiver 1 because he kept getting hurt. So he made 3 wide receiver 1s. Well, he did it. He got them the ball.
As a quarterback, you're supposed to distribute the ball.
That's right, but he did it greatly as a rookie.
Dude.
Okay, well, as a wide receiver, I'm supposed to catch the damn ball. Does that happen all the time? No. Sometimes they drop.
Well, yeah, sometimes you're called Tony. I don't know, but
yeah, you know what? It sounds to me like the bandwagon is pulling back into the Houston station here.
No, let's not go that direction. I am an unbiased sports reporter. Okay, I have a team. Don't get it twisted.
You sound very biased. You sound very biased.
I'm not. Look. Okay. I can recognize stuff. Okay, look, and I've complimented the Eagles. I am unbiased. Don't you come out here trying to tell me I'm not a Cowboys fan again, because I will come take a flight to Philly and I will hunt you down. And we will sit in a coffee shop on tape and we will have a conversation.
So, all right, well, that's good. Get your ass up here then.
Yeah, right.
I will. So she get.
All right, moving on. Since like I said, I do believe. Yeah, listen, Gibbs had a good season. Laporta had a good season. Bijan Robinson wasn't used right, so unfortunately he's off. Yeah, he might have actually been the winner if he actually had a good coach. So, defensive rookie of the year. This is an interesting one. Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Joey Porter Jr., Kobe Turner, or Devon Witherspoon?
I like Will Anderson here.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, he was a huge part of that defense and what they were able to do. I mean, just as much as CJ, what he did on offense to get them to the playoffs, that was what Will Anderson did on the defensive side to get them to the playoffs. And so, absolutely. I mean, without Will Anderson, I mean, that defense wouldn't have been what it was.
For sure.
I actually have a little bit, because I have a little bit of skin in this game. I think Jalen Carter.
He had a great season too.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt.
So we'll see. I think it's between those two, actually. No offense to Porter Jr. or Turner or Witherspoon, but I think it really is Anderson or Carter, and that could be looked at as a coin flip. If you're going by the playoffs alone,
right?
It's hard to say. Okay, well, they both made the playoffs.
True.
So
I like Porter Jr. and I really think with some more experience under his tool belt, that guy's going to get even better and better for that squad. Though I really do.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I liked what I saw out of Witherspoon all season. I mean, dude balled out, and he was one of the few guys on the Seahawks that still wanted to hit people. So, because for some reason tackling is now hard in the NFL. I don't really get it, but
we are the hit but don't wrap up league.
100%. It's throw a shoulder and hope for the best, and
hope for the best.
All three of our teams experienced the exact same thing, and it was frustrating as hell to watch. So there was that. But Witherspoon, outside of Bobby Wagner, was one of the only guys that really wanted to wrap up. So I will give him a lot of credit there. And maybe that's why I liked it, because I'm like, oh, someone that actually wants to hit somebody. Here we go. Like what?
And our famous bend and break defense, has worked wonderful. I'm hoping that definitely Vic can solve that problem. That's going to be a big problem to solve. Yeah, we talked about the coach, but let's talk about the assistant coach of the year. Ben Johnson is offensive coordinator. Mike McDonald is defensive coordinator. Todd Monken is offensive coordinator. Jim Schwartz is defensive coordinator. Or Bobby Slowick of offensive coordinator.
I'm gonna let Bo go first on that one. I think I know who I'm Bobby Slowick.
Who didn't know that? The bandwagon is pulled back into Houston.
No, I'm just trying to tell you. I think no, for real. Again, your head coach is your head coach, but D'Amico is a defensive kind of guy. Bobby Slowick is an offensive guy. And I think, look, somebody had to develop D'Amico and get him into that system and get him put in position. And somebody had to get those receivers as well. And that really was the main guy for the Texans. And he's just as much a part of that culture change and where they got to in the playoffs as D'Amico was, right? But credit D'Amico for recognizing Bobby and bringing him in, because great people put great people around them.
Yeah, I actually kind of tend to agree with that. I feel like this is a pretty close battle for this award, but I'd give the edge there just because I liked how drastic the turnaround was for the Texans.
Yeah, but did that have to do more with the talent or with the play calling?
Well, I mean, you can have all the talent in the world. If they're not coached very well, they don't play good. So
watch this. Can I ask you one question? And God, I love my boys. I love my boys. We have seen what the Cowboys have had in talent. We've also seen the play calling, a.k.a. Kellen Moore. So, yeah, you can have talent and have crappy play calling and still not go a damn place.
I heard he's listed as one of the people that may go back to Dallas as offensive coordinator.
That will not happen, sir. That will not happen. I will fly up personally and talk to Jerry if I have to do as many requests as possible.
So here's the thing. So what was your record with him? It was 12-5. Oh, wait. This is fun though. What was the record without him? 12-5. And how many playoff games did you win with and with? Oh, the same. Okay, yeah, cool.
I didn't say Mark McCarthy.
They did.
I didn't say Mark McCarthy was the answer either.
They did win a playoff game. They did win a playoff game last year.
Yeah, that's
with
true.
Kellen Moore.
That's true. Uh-oh.
See, I can appreciate the sarcasm because I know you guys are much more intelligent than this, and you would never say that in real reality. So I can
We just like it.
I can laugh too. I can take a hint at the sarcasm. Touche.
What's a good thing because we were laying it on pretty thick.
Yeah, you were, man. If it was any thicker, I'd have had to.
Well, and just so that you know, both the Browns and the Eagles requested an interview with Kellen Moore. I guess they wanted to see.
Oh, hold on, Pax. You can't just say that and nonchalantly think you can move on. So the Eagles requested an interview.
At least that's what's being reported.
How does that make you feel if they were to hire Kellen Moore? How would that make you feel?
I don't think they would hire Kellen Moore.
But how would it make you feel if they did?
If the sun became the moon, it would be lit every 24 hours a day. So I don't know how I'd feel about that either. You know what I mean? So let's not talk about what happenstance. Oh, if they were to hire him, and if I was to be living in Dallas, would I still be an Eagles fan? Yeah, probably. You know what I mean? Because Dallas sucks. And so
but you see how when I said that, you see how you got. Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, Bo. If the Eagles hired Kellen Moore, he will have a conniption. I promise you. You may see a different side of Pax, and we all know it.
The thing is if they hire him, all you can do is be like, well, I hope this works out.
No, all I can do is say, hell yes. As a Cowboys fan, hell yes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, as soon as the Seahawks got rid of Darrell Bevell and he got picked up somewhere else, it's like, well, best of luck with that, man. It's just like, hope it works out for you because it was kind of weird here. I
just think Pax needs to go through about 4 or 5 years of Kellen Moore and let's just see how he looks at the end of it. He's going to be horrible. He's going to be hard to live with, talk to. It's going to be terrible. You're going to see a whole different makeup regimen. May even be a bag. The Philly sports guy with the bag over him at shows like this.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be that bad.
Right.
I mean, Kellen Moore isn't terrible. It's
the thing about Kellen Moore is he's predictable.
Well,
and when you're predictable, that makes you horrible.
All things being equal, that offense, they were a top scoring offense and a top yardage gaining offense for most of the season until they started getting hurt.
But how many coaches and interviews and players that would talk on the opposite teams about Dallas and when Kellen was there, and they would say how predictable Dallas's defense was. It wasn't even hard to play call against them on the defensive side. I mean, I've heard that a lot, and you know what? And they backed it up when it come playoff time. They backed it up. Our calling was horrible.
Yeah, that predated Kellen Moore, though.
No, well, it's been there for a hot minute. But Kellen Moore certainly didn't change it. Let's put it that way.
Sure. But I don't know if
that's all right. Hey, listen, if you want to hire Kellen Moore and get that predictability there, that's fine with me.
I just mean I don't know that you can lay those failures solely at the feet of Kellen Moore.
No, I'm not laying it solely at his feet. I mean, look, I've told you a million times. Look, Kellen Moore is just a symptom. I've told you where the root lie of Dallas is, and it's with Jerry. Everybody knows he's the root. Kellen Moore was just a symptom. Mike McCarthy's a symptom. And every coach before Mike McCarthy was a symptom. I mean, we've always had the same specific. And I think that, and Pags, I don't think you guys are going to hire Kellen Moore. I really don't. I would be really surprised if you did. I just thought it was crazy that you were going to bring him in for an interview. I wouldn't even brought him in for an interview.
I mean, we got Kafka coming in as head coach for a second interview. Like,
I feel bad for that one.
I don't know if we're just trying to cut our ankles off. Like, I'm not really sure what we're doing. So there's a lot of weird coaching conversations going on that I don't know why they're going on, especially when you figure, like for us, the head coach, we don't even have Rabel on the list. We got Kafka coming in for a second interview, and we don't have Rabel on the like. What are we doing?
But I'm right there with you.
Yeah. No.
Well,
So,
and truthfully, though, and I think you even pointed it out earlier in another conversation where you showed the list of people that they were bringing in, and you weren't exactly happy with it. It was more the lower end coaches that they were bringing in.
man, you're dredging the pond at this point. Like we're looking for cars that have been buried for 40 years. Like I don't know what we're doing right now. Now obviously some of those weren't on there. You know, like they're gonna talk to Ben Johnson, right? Like that's gonna happen. They just, I think they had a phone call with him, but they're not going to have an in-person until, whether they fail this weekend or they, go to the Super Bowl, whatever. I mean, you can't meet in person until after that. So, there's some moves that may get delayed, but, still at the end of the day, if the guys that you're asking are guys like that or the DC for, the Panthers, it's just like, why? Like,
It almost goes back to and I saw the list of the guys you were talking about bringing in, and I'm like, if this is who you're bringing in, why did you even force Pete Carroll up to the booth?
Exactly.
You'd have been better. You're better off with just having Pete Carroll stay exactly where he is. If this is a caliber of candidates you're going to bring in,
well, that's the thing, right? Like, if you're going to,
did they even bring in Harbaugh? Did Harbaugh even go there for an interview?
No, I do believe they made a phone call, but that was it. So the biggest thing is if you're going to force a Hall of Fame head coach out, an upgrade is what you're thinking, right? You're like, okay, there has to be like a clear plan here. And if you're just like, you know what, just willy-nilly, you're like, hey, we're going to force this guy out. Let us go get a guy that led his team to a bottom 5 in every possible category. That's your answer as head coach? Like, what?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm struggling a little bit with the.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm surprised. We just talked about him in terms of being in the assistant list of people, for the award. Why didn't y'all bring in or even to put an offer in or an invite in for Slowick? I mean, he could have really, done good things out there with you guys.
Yeah.
He's got a young, innovative mind.
I'm with you.
Compared to some of the other stuff, I saw you had Dan Quinn on the list. You guys don't want Dan Quinn. He's not the right guy.
I agree with that. It does look like he's probably the front runner, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Right.
Obviously Ben Johnson, I definitely want him to take real interest in. I wouldn't mind Mike McDonald if they wanted to go with a defensive coach, right? Mike McDonald would be good. But then as soon as you get from there, you're just like, it's some of the guys they want to bring in. And it's like, man, these are not even a parallel to what you had before, right? Now you're starting to look at real downgrades from where they were. So I don't know. We'll see how it pans out, but based on who they're talking to, it makes me think Dan Quinn is probably that guy. He has his second interview, I believe, today.
Wow, good luck with that one, man. I'm ready to let him go after the defensive performance that I saw, against Green Bay. I'm good. Let's let him go.
Yeah,
I mean, he did great during the regular season. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he had us on point. Our defense was looking great. We're getting all these stops, this, that, and the other. And then the first damn game in the playoffs, and we look like complete and total doo-doo. And you can't even find a cornerback to save your life.
So, I mean, here's the thing for me. The numbers are kind of all over the place, right? So points allowed, Dan Quinn's defense was 5th. That's solid, right?
Right.
That's money. I like that. Passing yards, 5th. Okay. They're good against the pass. Sweet. Rushing yards, they were very average. They were 16th, right? I don't love that. The Seahawks already struggle in the run game, so that's not amazing. The part that worries me is something that Seattle already has a problem with, and that's penalties.
Right.
Right. So the Seahawks were weirdly somehow, even though they led the league in penalties for most of the season, finished ahead of Dallas with penalties. So it's and then third down percentage, which has been a huge issue for the Seahawks over the last couple of years. You guys actually weren't great on third down. as far as getting off the field. So, yeah, I don't know. The numbers aren't better enough to make me feel good about it. Plus, I mean, he's been here before. We know what the defense looks like. And we don't have the same talent that we did when he was here the first time.
You know, Chris Lentz points out that, oh, yeah, back to the 70s. And I was kind of thinking that, and I want to ask you that since you're the Seahawks guy. You know, you had Pete Carroll, which honestly, Pete Carroll took you guys out of the dark ages and brought you into the new wave. I mean, he really did, right? I mean, no, I mean, you know, he brought you in, you know. And I feel like, do you feel like
you got to remember we had Mike Holmgren. We did go to a Super Bowl with Holmgren.
Okay, I'll give you that. Okay, but again, you got to it with Pete Carroll, though. Is what I'm saying. You got to the mountaintop of Pete Carroll, right? Legion of Doom, I mean, you're right. Dan Quinn. I mean, Holmgren didn't start. Carroll took over, got you there, right? Yep. Do you feel like you're going? Do you think that you could possibly go back with the way that the front office, like what Robert Wardell is saying, that the front office is kind of ruining the team? Do you think that now you guys could be taking some steps back from where you came out of, and you could be going back to the purgatory land of what I knew Seahawks to be before the home Pete Carroll era?
Yeah, the 90s. I mean, it's real possible. This next hire is huge.
Right.
So it's a real concern because I don't think that even Dan Quinn, which when you look at the list of the people they've been talking to, isn't the same caliber as Pete Carroll, right? So based on everybody that you've been reading as potential candidates, they don't look like they're even a lateral move, right? So you are a little bit worried about where this is headed because if Dan Quinn is your best option, you know, to Rob's point, that Atlanta meltdown was a concern, but that's actually not my biggest concern with his tenure in Atlanta. Atlanta, my concern there was he got there. It was a pretty good team when he got there, right? They win right away. They get to a Super Bowl, and the longer he was there, the worse that team got, right? And they ultimately loses that job, goes to Dallas. Now, Dallas, when he got there, had a lot of talent. They just didn't have a DC that could get it together. And Dan Quinn is a good DC. I will give him that. And he turned your guys' defense around.
He was a good DC up until that Packers game. And then I don't know. Maybe he just lost his mic comm or something and things went left. I don't know. But you know,
anybody can have a bad game. Now
that's true. Everybody can have a bad game. Just don't let it be the first game in the playoffs.
I mean, he picked a bad time to have a bad game. That being said, he had your defense turned around from what it was when he got there because he didn't exactly change the roster a ton, but he went from a terrible defense to a very good defense, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I felt like to get you guys in the direction you were going, like Pete Carroll, Holmgren had you guys going, you know, and especially the NFL is going to younger head coaches, right? The NFL is changing as a game. The coaching mechanic or coaching styles and strategies are changing with it. And I think you needed a young guy, you know, like a Sloak or any one of those guys on that coaching list for assistant could have gotten you on the trajectory that you guys were going rather than taking Dan Quinn, which is just going to take you back. And that's why I was kind of mad. Yeah. That, like you said, the list you showed that you put in there, and I'm thinking like none of these guys are innovative. None of these guys are the guy that's going to take them and progress with.
No, and that's why I really hope they kind of wait a little bit and give Ben Johnson a real shot, right? Because I mean, at this point, the guys that are in front of you already aren't an upgrade. So now, do you go with Dan Quinn, which you know what he is? Or do you take a swing at somebody that's up and coming, right? And you look at a Ben Johnson scoring offense was 5th, pass yards 2nd, rushing 5th, touchdowns 3rd, red zone percentage 3rd, third downs, third down conversions, they were 10th. So, I mean, these are all things that would be significant upgrades from where the Seahawks were. Like, this is what I'm looking at is, of the body of work that these coordinators have been doing, are they better than where we were? And that's what I like about Ben Johnson. You're seeing other teams already filling their head coaching positions. So now there's not a ton of competition, right? Now you're looking at, okay, Seattle's one of the last jobs still available, which means you have a pretty good shot to land a Ben Johnson or something like that.
Right.
I hope they don't settle on a Dan Quinn prematurely because
Absolutely.
Detroit
Absolutely.
is continuing on, because that would worry me, and it's a very real possibility, because outside of Dan Quinn, the guys that are on the list that I would like them to really pursue besides Ben Johnson would be Mike McDonald with the Ravens. If they wanted to go with the DC, I like what they've been able to do. And I actually wouldn't even mind the Dolphins OC Frank Smith. Like, that would be interesting. That offense has obviously put up tons of numbers. So,
and especially with the wide receiver group that you currently still have with Lockett, Metcalf, and Njigba, and again, Kenny Walker's good too. So, and now you have an emerging Geno that came out of nowhere. So I think you're right. Absolutely. Wardell says, did Dallas just were they just too cocky and thought they had in the bag, and that's why they lost? No, we talked about this. I don't think it is the play call or the play of the players. It was a play calling that had them not putting pressure on the quarterback or the wide receivers in their defense. So no, I think it's absolutely the play calling. Which Dan, again, I don't think Dan Quinn is your guy because I just didn't like the play calling of what he was doing, and I really hope you guys don't hire him. I really hope, to what you're saying, Bo, that you guys go after a Ben Johnson or a Mike McDonald, or maybe you bring a Bobby Slovic in and interview him and see what his thought process is for your team and how he would use those wideouts and Geno and see it, and maybe his direction. You need to have some conversations with younger guys and not so much these old. I don't want to say has-beens, but just antiquated guys that aren't changing with the game.
And the thing is if you're trying to move on from Pete, then why would you turn around and bring in Pete's guy?
Exactly.
So
why would you?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't love the phone calls that they've made or the ones that they still have. I'm really hoping that at this point, because other jobs have already been filled, they drag their feet a little bit more. Because let's be honest, anybody that's still in the market is, isn't fired up about the jobs that are left, right?
Right.
Of the ones that are left, Seattle is probably the best job. So I don't know.
And you guys really, and that's the thing too, though, Bo. I think when you bring in your next coach, you got to look just beyond him. You got to look at the culture from which he came from, and see if that's the culture that you want to, have your team go into the next. So the Ravens culture is a good culture. Miami seems like they've really ridden this ship after the whole Flores incident and got that culture back. And obviously the Texans and what D'Amico and the culture that he's coming from, that culture is what you want to bring to your team and your organization as well, especially when your head guy is developing it.
No, and I'm with you. And to Rob's point here, they want to keep Pete's culture, and they absolutely do. But, some of that was the combination of Pete and Schneider. And so Jody Allen and Schneider are very they really want to keep that positive, always compete type of energy. I don't think you have to have one of Pete's guys to make that happen. I think you can set that precedent by any coach coming in. Like, hey, you can coach how you want, but this is the culture we've built, and we're keeping this. It's the same as anything else. If you let somebody do something and you try and correct it after the fact, it's much harder than just setting a precedent when they come in. Be like, this is how it is, and that's it.
And you figure that out in the interview process. Hey, look, this is our culture. Does this align with what you believe in?
Yeah.
And either it does or it doesn't, right?
So, yeah, no, it's I think that's kind of, where it's headed is I hope they're going to hold out and interview some of these guys, because otherwise I am not excited about the list. That's why I sent it to you guys last night. I'm like, what is this trash? So,
yeah. I read that list, and I was like, I felt bad for. I was like, man, if that's really what the pool they're looking at. I felt bad for you, brother. Because I've had that same kind of list in Dallas. What they've been looking at, and it's just
or
it's not exciting.
If you're really going the conspiracy theory route, right? Are they going the route of the Oakland A's? Hey, let's just suck really bad so we can move the team.
But that would make no sense, because you got the 12th man.
Well,
You guys got the 12 man, like you got everybody behind you.
There's no way the league would approve the move anyway.
No, but I'm just saying. Well, that's true. And I don't think they would. But you guys got so. That's the one thing about your fan base. You got such a huge turnout for all of your games. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a constant sellout. Like that's not. It would be a really ridiculously dumb move because you'd be taking you'd be taking the value away from the team. So it'd actually be a worse sale. It doesn't make any sense at all. But because it's not like they want to move the team, they want to sell the team. So they have all the interest in making this as profitable as possible. But that being said, we are real close to the end here.
Yeah. We have one other thing to talk about. Like I said, I've been going through technical difficulties here for the last few minutes, which is why I've been so quiet.
No, we've seen you pop in and out.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Comeback player of the year in the last 5 minutes. Flacco, Mayfield, Stratford, Tua, or DeMar Hamlin.
DeMar Hamlin wins it going away. I mean, the situation that he had to come back and play, even though he didn't play much, the fact that he put a NFL jersey back on his body pretty much hands him that. Outside of that, I mean, you got to like the resurrection of Baker Mayfield's career.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. If you like the feel good story, like the Alex Smith story, then Hamlin's going to get it hands down. If you look at it from performance levels, then I agree with it. I think Baker's done a great job. I really think it's between Baker and Flacco because Flacco's been out for a hot minute, and to come back into that team like he never missed a beat and keep that team 100% competitive really shows a lot on his end of the stick too. So I think for me it would be between those two, but I think to what Bo's saying, Hamlin gets it.
Flacco has a chance only because he's coming back from being a Jet.
That is true.
That's a career killer if you are a quarterback. So, but I mean, there's just no way Hamlin doesn't win this.
Yeah, 100%.
I kind of agree with you on that he's going to probably win this because anybody who dies on national television and comes back to life and back into football, that's him.
He's going to win that award. He's going to win some, favorite athlete SB, during this offseason. Like he's going to win all those awards.
I'll tell you this: Alex Smith didn't die, but if you look at the injury he went through, like Theismann, I thought that was a career death. I thought his career was dead, and the fact that he even came back and put that leg on the field, I mean, it's certainly not losing your heartbeat, but from a career perspective, I thought it was over. I thought that was it. Yeah. Same thing with Chubb. That Chubb injury, I thought that was going to be kind of maybe a career ender, but they're saying he's going to be back.
Well, somehow, amazingly, he only tore one ligament in all of that.
It looked horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like horrible.
Sometimes the power of medicine nowadays.
Oh, God.
Is amazing.
It is. There is no doubt.
So, but anyways, guys, we have come to the end of our show. Thank you to everybody who hung out with us today. Tomorrow, we'll actually talk about the games. We'll wait for Mclovin a little bit, so we'll figure out how to talk about all the different ways that the Cowboys are going to suck for the next upcoming future until Mclovin shows up, and then we'll start to say about how Houston really accepts all bandwagoners coming in from Dallas to start to love their team again. But anyways, everybody, thank you very much. Like I said, we'll be back on tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bo, you got anything real fast?
Nope, that's it. See y'all tomorrow.
Perfect. Mclovin, anything?
Hey, I just want to say tomorrow we definitely got to talk about Milwaukee. You guys should talk about this Milwaukee Bucks situation. And the coaching changes and how they're paying 3 coaches for the next 3 years. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I think you know what? I really have to say that you look like you have a big pussy.
Isn't she pretty?
Anyways, guys, thank you very much. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. And yes, we will talk about Glenn Rivers being the new coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah.